Hey you guys, it's Shannon Rose, and in today's video I am doing something I'm a little bit nervous about, and that is I am actually going to be posting one of my videos that I put on Patreon here on YouTube for you guys. I know a lot of you guys can't afford Patreon, and so I'm gonna do this I think like once a month, where I take a video that I posted on Patreon and I post it here for you guys, and I pray to God that YouTube doesn't give me a strike for putting this video on here, because as you guys know, their rules have gotten really strict, and so that's why a lot of the videos I can't post here anymore. I have to post them on Patreon. Today's video I really hope that you guys like it. I don't know if you guys remember, but a while back it was kind of a popular video series on my channel, which was gross things I did when I was in porn. So this is kind of like the same thing, just escorting. And then part 2 is over on my Patreon. So if you guys really love this video and you want to see more, there's tons of videos over on Patreon that I can no longer post here on YouTube. Everyone's always like, Shannon, where all your good videos go? They're all over there, unfortunately, for those of you guys that are here on YouTube. So I'll leave a link down below to my Patreon if you guys want to sign up. But without further ado, here is the video for you. Enjoy! Would kick him over and over and he would start bleeding. Okay, so today's video, I'm not gonna address the same mouth for every video, because I know you guys are so sweet and you're like, we don't care if you wear the same thing every day. So thank you for being so sweet to me. Also, in case anyone's curious, because I sometimes get questions, my headscarf is on my Amazon storefront. If I don't remember, let me know in the comments. I'll try to link it for you guys. Today's video, we are going to be talking about gross things I did escorting part 2, because you guys asked for a second video. And this is gonna be a gross one. So I'm just warning you, this is your disclaimer. If you are eating right now, maybe take a little break, unless you're okay with some nasty things that are about to be said right now. I'm gross. I would put your headphones on. Do not be watching this in public places. All the things. That was your disclaimer. Okay, so I made notes of some of the things. The first thing, okay, so as you guys know, I've done a lot of gross things. I mean, a lot of gross things, a lot of fucked up things. I mean, you guys know some of the things. But one of the things that I think maybe would be surprising to most, maybe not surprising, but just like an interesting fact. I don't know if you guys remember, but like a while ago, I told you guys like how you can temporarily stop your period to be able to have sex on your period where there's no blood that comes out. So like if you want to have sex during your period and you don't want there to be blood, you basically take like a sea sponge. You can also use a makeup sponge. You wet it, you squeeze it out, just like a sponge that you use for your face to like put foundation on. It's kind of the similar thing. You get it wet, you squeeze it out, and then you stick it up your hoo-ha all the way, and it temporarily will stop the bleeding so that you can have sex and it doesn't come out on like the condom or, you know, on his penis. And I talked about that before. Well, this also is the case if you have a yeast infection or a bacterial infection. And when I did porn and I was escorting, I would get these all the time. I would get yeast and bacterial infections, because that just is what happens when you have sex a bunch, right? You're just more prone to those infections. And because of that, you always have freaking Monistat, and you always have a bottle of diflucan, which is like the antibiotic that you get from your doctor to get rid of bacterial infection. Bacterial infections smell. You know, like if you ever smell like fishy down there or not good, you most likely have a bacterial infection. And so because I was constantly working so much, I would always get these infections. I always get yeast infections, and sometimes yeast infections were really bad, meaning like if I stuck my fingers up in there to like finger myself and I brought them out, there was like cottage cheese on my fingers. It was so gross. And you know, it happens. I know for you guys it's probably like, oh my god, you are so freaking disgusting. It's true, I am. But like when you are used to it and you're doing it all the time, like it's just like, oh fuck, like it's like an annoyance thing. So what we did was similar to what you would do when you had your period and you were trying to stop your bleeding temporarily. So what I would do is I would take a sponge or a sea sponge, I would freaking put Monistat all over it, because you know when you have a yeast infection, it is uncomfortable, and then I would down some diflucan, and then I would stick the Monistat sponge up inside of me to help with like, you know, the yeast infection and the pain and discomfort, and then have sex that way so that all the freaking cottage cheese wouldn't come out on him and he'd be like grossed out, you know, like when you're escorting. Same thing, not just with escorting, but also with porn. I would do the same, we would do the same thing. It's kind of like one of our porn star tricks that we would do so that it would mask the smell and also the freaking yeast infection cottage cheese coming out. I mean, I had such bad yeast infections that like it hurt to walk. Like that's how bad it was and uncomfortable uncomfortable it was. And my agent did not care. He was like, I don't care, monostat sponge and go to set. Like he was ruthless. So that's something that's kind of gross that, you know, happened not just escorting, but also in porn. So thought that was pretty gross. Thought I'd share that with you. Let's see, what is the other thing that I had in my notes? Oh, speaking of period. Okay, so this is also pretty gross. I was doing a call and it was with another girl, like an escorting call. And it was kind of dark. Like we didn't have a lot of lights on as we were like having sex and doing all these things. And he just happened to have sex with her first. And then he took his dick out, put it in my mouth. I was blowing him. I could smell and taste blood. And I just knew, obviously this is on the condom. I just knew that like I had the other girl's blood in my mouth and it was freaking disgusting. It really grossed me out. I know that everyone's tested and I knew she was tested because she did porn. So I don't get as scared like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get like some STD or something. I was more just like grossed out, like, oh, the taste of someone else's blood in your mouth is just not a cute, fun thing. And so that really sucked because I had to pretend like I liked it and, you know, that there was nothing wrong. Yeah, that was not fun. Blood all over the condom. Okay, here's another gross thing, but probably not that gross, but it's gross when it's happening is like when you have really hairy clients and you're giving blowjobs and you get pubes stuck in your mouth, and sometimes they would get stuck in my teeth and like I could not get it out. You know, you get like a piece of food stuck in your tooth and you have such a hard time getting it out. Like I would get pubes stuck in my teeth and I have the hardest time getting them out, and it was just so disgusting. So yeah, that was like another gross thing I experienced that I'm not like, ugh. Okay, another one, you guys, this one's really gross. So a lot of times when we did these calls, not a lot, but there were a few where like the guys like to party, and by party I mean like do drugs. And it's funny because like they hire us but like they can't even get it up to have sex, right? So silly. But this guy was just like on so much blow, like coke, and was just like doing so many lines like while I was there, and it was like really gross out to me. And a lot of times like when they're like partying with you, they want you to like do drugs with them, and like wasn't doing like coke at the time. I think I did coke, like I didn't do it very many times in my life. It just wasn't one of my things that I liked, but like we would pretend to do it. So this sounds like really bad because some people might be mad, like you wasted drugs. But we would take the straw and instead of like snorting in, we would snort out and it would kind of blow away. So like, you know, if they weren't really paying attention, we were able to like get away with it so that they thought we were doing drugs, but we weren't. And I only had to do this a couple times, but yeah. So anyway, this guy was on so much coke that like his breath smelled so rank and he had like such dry cotton mouth, and like he wanted to like make out with me, and oh, I could smell his breath from like feet away. And I was just like, oh God, this is the thought of making out with you and your stanky ass coke breath like is literally making me want to freaking vomit. And like, oh, I'm just like, makes me kind of sick just thinking about it. I was so scared to kiss him because I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get like high off of his like mouth, you know, like, and I would get anxiety because I didn't want to like get high, and it just like really freaked me out. And it was also just so gross. Ugh. And they can never get it up anyways, you know, like when they do go. Either they have a problem getting it up or they get up and they just want to like go nonstop and your poor vagina is like so raw. I did not like those calls. Okay. Oh, here's another one. So I had a client once that loved eating me out. Like he just like ate me out for no joke, like probably 40 minutes. It felt really nice, but he liked always having Jolly Ranchers. It was so weird. Jolly Ranchers in his mouth, like while he was eating me out. And I'm sure it was like all fun and fruity down there for him, you know? I don't think he did it. Like, I know he didn't just do it for me. He did it for other girls because I have friends that also saw him all the time. And we called him Jolly Mouth, like, because he always had Jolly Ranchers in his mouth when he ate us out. But the problem with that is like the sugar or whatever it is, like down there, I would get like an infection every time after I saw him. And it sucked so bad. So like, it doesn't sound gross, but it ended up being gross because I always would get an infection from him, like eating me out. God, he was a special one, that one. He was one of the ones that always wanted to date me. Never gonna happen. Okay, and then the last one that I have is a fetish one. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of ball busting. It's basically like when you kick a guy in the balls as hard as you can. This is a really big fetish. Well, maybe not that you guys know of, but that I did a lot. And a lot of times, obviously they're into pain. And this client of mine never had sex with him. I literally just went over there, kicked him in the balls like a bunch of times, and then would leave. That was my call. There were so many weird, like, oh my gosh, have you guys seen Hollywood? Okay, if you haven't seen on Netflix Hollywood, you guys should watch it. It's so good. It has to do with like a prostitution gas station thing, like, but back in the day, like when everyone wanted to like try to get into Hollywood and like movies and stuff, and that they were all freaking prostitutes. It's so funny because it's so similar to still what happens today. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So the guy asked me to wear spiked heels. Now these are heels that literally have spikes on them, and I would kick him over and over and he would start bleeding, and I would end up having blood all over my legs from like kicking him in the balls a bunch of times super hard that he would literally bleed, and I would have like his blood all over my legs, and I would have to go to the bathroom and like wipe all his blood off, and it was just like kind of gross because you're like, oh God, those guys aren't tested. That like scared me, you know, and I never meant to like make him bleed. It just happened to happen, you know? And so it was times after that where I'm like, okay, like if they want me to do something like that, I need to ask them to get tested first, just like for our safety, you know, God forbid, like they're HIV positive or something, like you definitely don't want to be getting their blood all over you. So those are some of the gross things and scary things that happened when I went on some of my escorting calls. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it, I'm sorry, I'm thinking YouTube, give it a thumbs up. You don't need to give it a thumbs up. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being here and supporting me on here. It really does mean so much to us and our family. With our transfer getting canceled, we've had to pay all over again for, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars to redo it again this month. And you guys' support here like helps us tremendously to be able to continue doing our IVF cycle to try to have another baby. So thank you. You guys have no idea how much your support like truly means to us and our family. So thank you for being here and supporting us. I'm sending you all my love and all my positive energy, and I hope to see you in my next video.
Prove I got something to show. Nobody got nothing on Rose. I got the clout, I got a following. Yeah, you can hate, but you gotta acknowledge it. I got a story and I'm gonna tell it. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna sell it. Shannon Rose, I'm an example of how you can change. They used to tell me that I would be nothing. Now I got a million supporting my name.